hang out and do a little crafting together. I finished this journal last night, and it is in my Etsy shop if you're interested in it. But I want to make another one like it because I have leftover papers and embellishments and all that, and I just like to make another one like it. So we're going to make the cover together. So it's just a simple single signature journal, kind of in a traveler's notebook size. So we're going to at least make the cover. Let's see how far we get today. So, there it is. So my base is, this is just like a piece of cardstock or really lightweight cardboard. It's actually the front cover to a scrapbooking paper pad, a 12 by 12 paper pad. I like to keep the fronts and the backs of those because it's a really nice heavy duty cardstock that works for doing things like this. This is I don't know who to give credit for covers like these. I mean, I see Gail Agostinelli. I see her do covers like this quite a bit. I see a lot of people do covers like this. So it's not, this isn't my idea. So by any means, don't think I'm trying to take credit for this type of journal cover. So it's just a journal cover. Like I said, I don't know who first did it, but I'm just gonna give credit to Gail because I like giving somebody credit. So I'm gonna call it a Gail cover. Anyway, so I was just trimming off the little front top part up there so I could get a nice clean edge to work with. So this is my journal signature. I've got my papers picked out. Of course, I don't have them inked and pockets sewn in or any of that stuff yet. I've got my papers picked out and I have them folded and they're all cut to the size I want. So now I'm just going to mark my cardstock for size, and I'm just laying it out, and I'm getting the height. See, I leave a little bit bigger than the top and a little bit bigger than the bottom. So just in case you are interested and want to know, my pages measure about 4.5. Of course, they stick out a little bit in the middle because they're folded. So they're about 4.5 by 8.5. 4.5 by 8.5 is my page size. So open, it would be cutting your papers to 9 by 8.5. Okay. So by the time I've marked that for my cover, oops, I have my ruler upside down. 8 7/8. We'll go ahead and make that about 9. We'll just call it 9. I make my cover 9 inches tall. Okay. And trim that off. Now we have our height. Okay. And anything will work to do. This is just to kind of give your cover some stiffness. So you can use anything. I've used file folders in the past as well. Okay, I had some technical difficulties. All right, so I have it's cut for the height, and then here's my journal signature, and I've placed it back away from the edge just about 1/4 inch. Okay, that will help protect my page edges, 1/4 inch or so. And then over here, I'm just going to mark the spine area. That's where I'm going to fold my cardstock. Okay, that would be my spine. Make sure that fits in there like it should. Yep, fit inside. Yep, Okay, and now I need to cut the back part back here. The same size, trim that off. Yeah, sorry about that. You may be missing a little bit out of the video there, but I had some difficulties. All right, that will work just fine. So it's a little bit bigger than my journal signature all the way around, all 3 sides. Okay, now I have picked out some fabric. This journal I did with a red plaid, and then I also have this. It's a very vintagey looking plaid as well. That I thought, and the other one's going to have this same image on it, and that matches really well. So at least it'll be just a little bit different. I used some of this fabric, and it's kind of thin. So I think I want to double it up. And I could do 1 layer of this and then 1 layer of a plain fabric underneath it, but I don't have plain fabric handy, and I didn't pay much for this fabric, so I'm fine with doubling up the same, even though you won't see it. Okay, so I am just going to cut around the outside edge. So see, I've left enough to fold over. And it doesn't have to be exact. So I have two layers of fabric there, and what that does is when you're touching the cover, you don't feel like the cardstock is just right below the surface. You know, having a double layer of fabric just gives it a little more cushion. I mean, you can still feel that there's cardstock or something stiff inside there, but I just like the way it felt after 2 layers of fabric instead of just 1. Like I said, the inner layer, if you're going to do 2 layers, the inner layer, if you don't want to waste your patterned, use plain color or some kind of ugly fabric to do the inner side. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. I want to look to see if it needs ironed. It kind of does. It kind of does. Okay, I'm going to give this a little bit of heat with my iron and make sure that we don't have any wrinkles, and then I'll come right back. Okay, that's a lot nicer. All right, let me unplug this iron. Okay, now I want to kind of tack this down a little bit with some glue, especially to keep it in place while I sew around the edges. I am going to use just Mod Podge. I could use Fabri-Tac because Fabri-Tac really is a fabric glue, but Fabri-Tac seems to seep through fabric very, very easily. And I really don't want any seepage going through on my cover. Now, Mod Podge, because it is water-based, it will make our cardstock get a little bit wrinkly, but by the time you sew around the edges and you get your papers in there, and you can even set a book down on it overnight, it flattens out really, really easily, so really not a big deal. I am just using plain old regular Mod Podge. And I'm not getting super heavy-handed with this. I don't want it seeping through to my fabric. And it does help that we have 1 or 2 layers of fabric. I have a little glob there. Okay. Set that on there. Okay. I'll do the back side. Okay, now I've managed to get that all over me. Diaper wipes. Those are great to have in your craft area. Okay, make sure everything looks good from this side. You shouldn't feel any seepage, and technically this outer layer really honestly isn't even attached because this was glued to the inner layer of fabric. Okay, now we can kind of cut these corners down here a little bit so they will fold in nicely. I'm just kind of cutting across. Okay, giving a place to fold it in and not get too close to the corner here. I'm leaving about 1/8 to 1/4 inch around the corners. Just helps get rid of some of the bulk in the corner. They make fancy tools. In fact, I have one. Oops, it's okay, baby. It's okay. You know, they make these fancy book tools that you can, you know, hold on there and then you can mark it and cut it. But just one more thing to have to dig out and put away. All right. I'm just going to put a little bit of Mod Podge. Okay, and I'm kind of tucking in on the corner. Let me zoom down a little bit. Tucking in on the corner while folding this over. Okay, and this time, because we are double layered on my fabric, I can put a little bit of Mod Podge in there to help it tack down. Should be fine. I wouldn't get too heavy-handed with it, but okay. If you need to, you can always use little clothespins or something to keep that in place while you're working. I have these nifty clips. My aunt gave me these. She uses them in her sewing because she saw me struggling with pins, stick pins. She got these for me and they have been a lifesaver for all kinds of stuff. Okay, now we'll do the next side. I'm just going to put a little bit of Mod Podge there. You don't have to use Mod Podge. Any type of glue like this will work great. Elmer's glue, especially if we water it down just a little bit so it's not quite so thick. You could use PVA glue. So I'm just going to kind of tuck the corner in a little bit and then fold it over so we get a nice clean corner. because that's double layered. I'll put a little bit in here to hold it. I'm going to sew around the edges, so it really just needs to hold it until I can get it to the machine. And if you're not using the sewing machine, which is fine, it just needs to hold it until you get your background paper put on the inside. Okay, so I'll move this to that corner. And I'm just going to do the same thing for the next 2 edges, okay? All right, I'm going to finish this up, doing just like I just showed you, and then I will come on back. Alrighty, so we are all glued up, and I've left my clips on here until I get ready to sew. And then now I want to put some tie closures in. This one has ties, and I actually sewed, I put them in and I glued my paper down and then I sewed it. But I think I don't want my stitches to show through on the next one. So I am going to go ahead and put those on now. And I've decided I'm going to use this cute ribbon. Hang on, I'll show it to you. Not sure where I got it from. Maybe Joann Fabrics last year. Not really sure. Or Hobby Lobby. I don't know. It's really cute though. It's a cotton. What does it say? I think it says cotton. Maybe it doesn't really say. It doesn't. It's some kind of cotton fabric ribbon. It looks sort of vintagey and it has these red snowflakes. So they're a kind of a real dark brick red, which matches the red on the journal cover really well. So I've got one for each side. And those are going to go there when I sew around the outside edge. In the meantime, I think I can move my clips now. In the meantime, I'll just clip them here so I know where they go. I'm going to measure, what was my height? I was 9.5 inches, so about 4.5 inches is the halfway point. So I move these down just a tad so that it's in the center. There we go. 4.5 and 4.5. Just make sure that if you're using a one-sided fabric or tie or ribbon like I am, that you put the correct side facing out. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm ready to sew around the outside edges. I know that if you're not going to sew, you're not going to do any machine stitching, then you would want to glue these down in here, and then you'd be ready to start putting your inside paper in, which I'm going to do in a little bit. But because I'm doing my machine stitching, I want to do that now. You could do it later, afterwards, if you wanted to. I liked the look of having the clean paper on the inside without the stitching. So that's why I did my stitching first. So, let me move some things out of the way. Bring my sewing machine over here. We do a little stitching together. Hopefully I have enough thread to make it through. Ooh, I don't know. My red is getting very low. And the red I have doesn't match real great. I think I'm going to switch out to a black thread that would match these lines on this cover a little bit better. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to switch out to a black thread. I'll come right back, guys. Okay, I have my thread switched out. And I could have done it on camera with you, but it takes me a bit. Okay, so now that I'm doing my stitching, I want to make sure that my covers stay nice and tucked in. I can fix them if I need to because I've only glued that down with Mod Podge, so it's not super permanent. And all I'm going to do right now is I'm just running a stitch around the outside edge. I haven't decided, do I want to do a zigzag or a straight? I'm going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to do a nice wide straight stitch. The other one I did zigzag, so I'm just going to change it up a little bit. Okay, I think we're good. Now, my sewing machine, because I sit at a counter height workspace, my foot pedal's up here on the counter with me, so I sew with my hand and not my foot, believe it or not. Which is fine until it comes time to doing a reverse stitch. That's a little tricky. But I find I can control the speed of my sewing machine a little bit better by sewing with my hand, not my foot. If your fabric wants to roll in front of your foot, just put your needle down and then you can lift the pedal and do a little tucking it with your fabric back where it needs to go if you need to, okay? Alright, go not all the way to the edge, and then I will lift the foot and turn with my needle down into my project. And then I'm just going to keep going all the way around the edge. Okay? Alright, be right back. Okay. Let's slide this back out of the way a little bit. Let me bring it back up just a hair. There we go. Alright. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty good. My machine does not do very wide or very long straight stitches for some reason. I don't know why. I wish it would, but I've backed it back out as far as it'll go, and it just doesn't do as long as stitches as I want. Okay, now decide which one's going to be your front and your back. Don't really suppose it matters, but I like those ties. Okay, at this point you could go ahead and glue your papers in if you weren't going to add anything, but I'm going to sew some things onto the front. So I'm just going to clip that closed for now while we're working on things. Here, there we go. Alright, let's make it very similar to this one. I really liked this one. In fact, when my phone went cha-ching a minute ago, it sold this little journal, so... I used, so this is a piece of lacy stuff. Don't even remember where this came from. I don't know if somebody sent it to me or if it was some fabrics that I got from somewhere or what. I don't even know what it was. Excuse me, but it was very cute. Delicate looking. So I'm just trimming some of it off. Okay. Do a little trimming over here. I guess I could have done that off camera. Sorry. Just, you know, talk amongst yourselves for a bit. Alright. That will end up going here, just like this one that I did. And then I have another one of these. And so what this was is it was a scrapbooking paper pad. That's where a lot of these really cute papers came from, was a Christmas paper pad. Well, that's wrapping paper, but that one, this one, it was a scrapbooking paper pad, and it had some embellishments or journaling cards in with the kit. So I could do a different one on the front instead, couldn't I? To make them both a little bit different. I just really like the A Joyous Christmas because it just reminds me of the cover of a book. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of the cover of like it would be on a Charles Dickens book or a book from that time period. So that's what I'm going to use to put on the front. I need to trim it down. I need to cut it off of this sheet of paper. That's what I need to do. Okay. And one more. There we go. So I just think that matches that fabric so well. Okay. And I'm going to use my corner rounder. Around the corners just a tad. And then on this one, I backed it with a piece of green, and I think I'm going to do the same. It kind of just makes it pop, you know. So that's what I'm gonna grab some coordinating paper, and I'm gonna dig up another little trim and some matching fabric, or we may use another piece of this ribbon. Not sure yet. I'll come right back. Okay, I think I've got it all figured out what I want to use. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to ink up the edges a little bit. And yeah, that would work just great. Lost my pencil. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to cut the green a little bit bigger than my card. So I'm just going to mark it where I want to cut it. Make it a little bit wider and a little bit taller. It makes a nice little mat. Helps make it kind of pop. I just love this little paper trimmer. It's so great. I think that's the best Christmas gift my mother's ever bought me. It was probably only, what, $10 or $15 on Amazon. I'm not sure what she paid for it, but it's like the best Christmas present ever. I use it all the time. I love my big paper trimmer, but just doing little things like this, it's so nice to not have to drag that over here. Okay, now I'm just going to give this a little spot of glue in the middle so it'll hold it together while I'm working with it over at the sewing machine. Of course, if you're not sewing, then you'll want to do your proper gluing up of everything. Okay. Now, I think before I glue that on, I'm going to give it a little bit of decorative stitching around the inside. So I'm I'm going to bring my sewing machine back over. You can sew along with me. Okay. I'm just sewing right inside the tan colored paper. I'm doing a straight stitch this time still. Oh, what is going on with my straight stitch? It's definitely not right. My adjuster dial that lets you adjust the stitch length is kind of messed up. And my husband's fixed it for me once, and I think it's come undone inside the machine again. I think that's what's happened. I have it adjusted to the longest stitch possible, and it's stitching really tiny short stitches, so have to have him take a look at it for me again. In the meantime, we've got little stitches. That's okay. I want it to look a little bit rustic anyway, so purposely made the stitches not straight, or the line of stitching not straight. Okay, so that's going to go here. This is going to go on behind it, just to give it some layering, a little bit of delicate femininity. I don't have any more of this trim that's down here at the bottom, but I do have some of this, and I think I'm going to snip a bit of this off. And I'll tuck, that will end up behind also. I don't think I want it quite that big. Okay, so that will go behind there. And then this is some of the red plaid left over from the other journal. And I'm going to cut a little fabric snippet to put behind my button. And if I just grab the edges, I can fray that out a little bit. Oops, that is my hubby. Let me turn that down a little bit. Oh, he's telling me to start my coffee shop. I've been thinking about doing Ko-fi or coffee. I'm gonna have to look up how to pronounce that so I don't sound like an idiot anymore here on YouTube. However you pronounce it, K-O-F-I, coffee or Ko-fi. I am thinking about moving all my stuff from Etsy over there. So you guys, let me know. What do you think about that? Do you have a Ko-fi shop instead of an Etsy shop? Do you sell on both platforms? Do you only sell on one platform? Do you buy only off of one platform? I have no idea. I am completely new to the whole Ko-fi thing. Okay, so that's going to go like that. And then I had a button somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So I don't want this side of my button. I'm going to use this side of my button. So that's going to go on there. Yeah, that's pretty cute. Okay, but I'm going to add that part later. This part's going to stay. This part's going to stay. I'm going to sew around this. Move it down just a hair. And this time I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around the outside of the green. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go all the way around the green with a zigzag stitch and making sure that I've caught these little trim layers back here. Okay, I'm going to do that off camera. I'll come right back. Okay. I like the look of the zigzag with the straight, kind of the ragged straight stitch like that. Okay, it gives it a little dimension. I like it. Okay, now my button, before I glue my paper on the inside, I want to put this little piece of fabric and this button here, and I'm going to hand stitch that on, and I'm going to go right through the inside of my cover with a needle and a thread and just do it by hand. So I'm going to do that probably off camera, and I will come right back again. Okay. There we go. That's cute. I decided to put the knot on the outside of my button instead of on the inside. So I sewed right through there. And then now we're ready to finish this off. We need to cover up the ugly on the inside. So, okie doke. So I've picked out this plain red paper. Well, it has a little bit of a pattern to it, but it matches the reds in this fabric really well. And of course it coordinates with this because they came out of the same paper pad. And if you're interested in what I'm using or what I've shown you, the papers, they came from this paper pad, DCWV, Die Cuts with View, Christmas Carol, excuse me. It's a double-sided paper pad, and it had the cards in it, the journaling cards in it that I showed you from what I used on the cover. So I've chosen the plain red. I think that will coordinate really well. And I've gone ahead and I've folded it in half. And I'm going to glue this on in one piece. It's going to be tricky because it wants to shift when you glue it, because see what happens there? See how we get that gap down there at the very bottom? Watch this if you can. See, I'm going to hold it here on the corners, so like it's glued down, and then it wants to bulge out. Okay, that's very typical when you're gluing something with a crease in it and stacking it up like that. But I've folded it in half, and I'm going to mark probably a little bit bigger than what I need. Okay. But I'm going to try to do this in one piece without it cracking down the middle and without it bulging. So we have to be patient in doing that. Now, another thing you could do is you could take a bit of the coordinating fabric that you used on the outside, and you could cut a strip of it and glue that strip down the center in the spine, okay? And just glue it nice and secure. And then you could do this, do your paper in two sections. One on that side and then one on this side. And then you'd have just a sliver of that fabric showing in the center below that. So you could totally do it in two sections. I'm going to attempt to do it in one. So I did it in one on the other journal, on this one. So surely I can do it again on this one. All right, so I've marked my paper to be just a little bit back from the edge of my journal cover. So I'm going to cut that. Let me trim this down just a little bit so it will fit in my trimmer. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Every time I say here we go, it reminds me of Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. In their snap count, their hard count, he's like, here we go. So I'm always saying that. All right. Derailed. Oops. Okay, and then I'm just going to mark it a little bit from the top. So I'm giving a little bit of room at the bottom. Okay, I'm not going all the way to the edge, and I'm not going to go all the way to the edge on the top. So I'm marking a little bit less there on the top. Let me trim this. I've lost my mark. Where was my mark? There it is. I see it. Okay. Now I just want to ink a little bit. This paper has a white core in the center, so when you cut it, you see that bright white. And I just want to darken that down a little bit. The paper itself is kind of already distressed looking, so I don't think it needs any more help. Okay. Get that pushed all the way in the corner. All right. When I glue, I'm going to glue especially right down the spine area really well. And I want to get the outside edges really well also, but I don't want to put so much on the outside edge that it seeps out. I don't want any seepage. I want it secure, but no seepage. I really want to get that inside part by the spine area where the crease is at. Okay, let me make sure I'm centered top to bottom. And I'm just going to fold this over on it. Okay. I like where I'm at. There we go. That looks pretty good. And now we'll do the same thing on this other side. I'm using Fabri-Tac. I like I like using Fabri-Tac or Beacon 3-in-1 because they are not water-based glues. They don't make your paper warp. But you use whatever glue you're comfortable using. Because it is a very stinky glue. So I don't know what to, oh, there's the cap. Okay. Now notice I'm gluing and then folding it in. Okay, I'm not gluing it flat and then folding my cover. I'm gluing it while it's folded. Now, I'm going to go ahead and clip the edges just so they don't move. I don't want them creeping out on me. Okay, there's that one. Now, I'm going to try to open this up. And I'm just bending a little at a time. I'm kind of relaxing these fibers, these paper fibers. Okay. So I'm not just going to yank it back open. I'm just kind of relaxing them, stretching them a little. I don't want my cardstock to crack. I'm just kind of rubbing it back and forth as it opens. Rubbing it down in that crease. And those paper fibers will stretch a little. Just keep working at it until you get it all the way open. And then close it back again. And all the way open until You can see that it stays glued where it's supposed to. It doesn't bulge down here when it lays flat and open. And everything stayed where it was supposed to. So it just takes a little bit of patience. If you want to be able to do it in one sheet of cardstock, it takes a little bit of patience because you would just want to rub those paper fibers. It basically, it weakens the paper fibers, okay? So it weakens it just a little bit, and you get them to stretch, okay? And that's it. That's all that's to it. So there we have it. Our journal cover is finished. So now on the inside, you could add pockets if you want to, in the front or the back. And then when you've got your journal signature all ready to go in, just plop that into place and do you a little 3-hole or 5-hole stitch, which there's plenty of YouTube videos out there for sewing signatures in. But that is our journal cover. So it's really cute. I like the way that came out. So not sure which one I like better. I almost like this one better. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Love to see what you make. So if you do, tag me on Instagram if you would, or here on YouTube. And I'll see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye.